All right, I'm here at Barnabo. Well, it's backwards, but I'm at Barnabo Field, tossing some pigskins, just like the old days. I'm Scott. I'm a former Romeo High School graduate and D1 football player, and I live and breathe Romeo High School football.
All I hear, go get the money, so I go get it. Hate means I do something right, so I'ma let him.
I've known Scott actually my entire life. We actually started playing football with each other back in high school, and it should have stopped there, but he just kept coming over to my house and asking to hang out. I mean, 40 years old, and look at him. He still comes over and plays with himself at Barnabo Field. I heard he was coming to the football games through the parents at the PTO meetings, requesting some restraining order.
You guys want to check out the press box? So here's the press box, where you'll find window crusties. And if you're lucky, a local Tim Meyer.
I hate that guy. You mean you want a 40-year-old guy running around the football field at your kid's football game? I mean, it's weird.
What would you tell him?
Well, I tell him I'm Tim Meyer, and I tell him watch the game on the Mitt TV and stay 100 yards away from Barnabo Field.
It's a community, you know? The players, the people, students.
I honestly have no idea who this guy is. I thought he was some Make-A-Wish kid. He comes like every game, and he's like, what, 60?
What's so funny?
What's up?
Let me see it.
No, man. He always tries talking to us, but we always ignore him every time.
You do anything fun later? Do anything cool?
Just a party.
Really? Like, what's the Addy? Maybe I'll cruise on by, check it out.
It's like a invite-only type thing. You know, a lot of guys.
A lot of guys, like dudes?
Yeah, a lot of dudes.
Is there anything that could stop you from coming to the game?
No.
COVID?
No.
Russia?
I would say he doesn't have to come to the high school games anymore. He can stay at home, put on the Mitt TV, and watch the games live right at his couch.
It is 7:02, so we will call the May 5th meeting of the Romeo DDA to order. We start with a roll call.
Hutnick.
Here.
Oswald. Here. Poznansky.
Here.
Bowers.
Here.
Van Wormer.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
St. Laurent.
Here. All right, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everyone's minutes should be in their packet. Oh, I'm sorry. First, we have to do the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to have I don't approve, I'm sorry. I have a question. At the bottom of the agenda, it says anyone wishing to address the DDA during public forum is for item, let's see, up to 3 minutes per person. Our bylaws actually state 5 minutes, and you have the authority to change that, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to listen to what they have to say.
That's fine, we can do 5 minutes.
Okay.
I think we had that discussion last month as well.
Mm-hmm. So do I need to make a motion to change that, or we just?
Well, I don't know if Megan wants to adjust her motion with a 5 minute or not.
Yeah, we can adjust the motion with the agenda as presented with the addition of 5 minutes per person, a maximum of 30 minutes.
I'll still second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, agenda is approved. So now we can go on to approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm sorry, was that you, Kathy?
I'm sorry.
That was you?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
me, yeah.
thank you.
For April 7th?
For April 7th, yes.
All right, is there a second?
I would support.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. So we move into our public forum, 5-minute limit, up to 30 minutes. Anyone who would like to address the board may do so now. Okay, we'll close public forum. Oh, okay.
My name is Scott McLeod, 4073.
Is that on, Scott,
The mic.
Press the button? Okay, let me stop this, reset it. My name's Scott McLeod, 48073 Van Dyke. And I'd like to address the board on a couple of important points. The first one is, I would like to commend one of your board members tonight, Marty Hutnick. I'd like to commend Marty for her courage, strength, and commitment to standing up for what she believes in, even when it wasn't the prevailing statement amongst the majority of the board. This is fundamentally why a board exists in the first place, to bring together diverse perspectives and not to reach a consensus just for the sake of agreement. The presence of differing opinions is vital. It enriches discussions and leads to more informed decision-making. After all, if everyone were to agree all the time, just to simply make a decision, then this decision-making could simply be relegated to a single individual. And I know we don't want that. So Marty, I want to just say that you displayed commendable resolve by not allowing your views and values to be suppressed, even when they were met with resistance. This stands as a powerful reminder for this board to be more open-minded and to actively listen to each other. Embracing constructive disagreement could lead to greater understanding and ultimately better outcomes. I also hope the board doesn't resort to actions of retribution in response to that bravery and voicing her opinions. You see, you were all friends before this debate arose, with mutual respect. Hopefully you can continue to maintain both your friendships and your professional relationships. Respectful dialogue should remain central to the board's culture, ensuring that all voices are heard and valued. Which brings me to my second point. Romeo is a community in its finest and truest sense. Creating divisions in Romeo is not the essence of Romeo. Romeo is a welcoming haven for all, a place where individuals can come together, linger a while, and enjoy its charm and vibrancy. Visitors are invited to explore the unique shops and delightful restaurants, encapsulating the spirit of togetherness that defines us all. Recently, we faced a challenge that threatened this unity. However, along with the appropriate actions which you should take today, that issue can now be resolved. It's important to acknowledge that there were differing opinions in our community. Some supported the changes, while the majority opposed it. Yet much like this board, the strength of our community lies in the love and support from all of its community members. The question is, where do we go from here? Can we continue to coexist harmoniously? I know we all hope to keep enjoying our time in downtown Romeo and feel welcomed. We wish to savor our favorite coffee and treats at Main Street Coffee House. Continue indulging in the best home-cooked meals at Four Corners Diner. Discovering the unique, amazing treasures at MJC, as well as all the downtown shops and restaurants. Moreover, we look forward to gathering at all the events like Vintage Fest and Peach Festival, sharing our warmth and sense of community with everyone we encounter. This is what Romeo embodies, an idea that resonates deeply with all of us, an idea whose time has truly come, and I hope we can embrace it all together. And I'd like to go off script just for a moment here and say to Kay. Kay, I think you, personally, in my own opinion, I think you've done a wonderful job. You came in here in November after all this had started. And I think you have done a great job in presenting yourself and representing the board in a wonderful, honest, and way of integrity. And I think you should be proud of that. I remember when Channel 7 came to town. I don't know about you, but if you were as blindsided as I was, I think your interview was fantastic. And you represented this board with integrity. And I think you should be proud of that and commended for that. And I think this whole board should be proud of you, and they should commend you for that as well. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address the board?
Hello, I'm Grace from Starkweather Art Center. I'm not sure what was said prior because I came in a little late, but I just want to say how happy so many of my members are at Starkweather that the parking signs have come down. I've had many people say to me, now I can come back to town to go eat, to go do whatever. They just were resistant to coming into town. I noticed the big change in parking, that the parking had shifted in weird ways, like people parking at PNC that shouldn't be there. And it just seems to have returned to some normalcy now that the signs are down. And just a feeling of relief from so many people at my organization, our volunteers in particular. So I hope it stays, because I think the parking signs really changed the tenor of the village. And it's a friendlier place to be now that they're gone. I said to my husband, you know, you go to Ferndale and it's 20 to 30-year-olds. You go to Rochester and it's 40 to 50-year-olds. But you come to Romeo, and it's not exclusively older, but there's a lot of older residents, older people that come downtown. And the reason they come downtown to Romeo, other than other places, is it's welcoming. And they did not feel it was welcoming with the signs there previously. So I just hope it stays the way it is now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Mike from Tech City Electronics, right downtown Romeo. I'll agree that since the parking signs are down, it's make it a little easier for the seniors and our clients and customers to park either in the front or in the back of the Parker building, which is right in the middle of town, to unload or load their desktop computers or gaming computers that are large towers, very heavy and whatnot. So I appreciate that you guys dismantling the program and the signs being gone. I think it's a lot less confusing now. And I do have a recommendation, you guys, for anybody that I watched the second half of the meeting at home last week. It seems like, guys, the microphones just need to be a little closer to you guys on the panel. I had to turn the TV set all the way up to 100 to try and hear you guys, because when you're so far back from the microphone, it's very difficult. So just a recommendation, but make sure your microphone's on and it's a little closer. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address the board? Now is your chance. All right, seeing none, we will close public forum, and we will move on to our financial report. Okay.
So we received the financial statements from July 1st, 2024 to April 22nd, 2025 from Plant Moran. They were received and filed. The total revenue earned in April was $1,608.03. That includes interest earned of $557.35 and park mobile revenue in $1,000.50.68. The ending balance on 4/22 was $234,334.23.
Looking for an approval at this point for bills to be paid.
The total bills presented for approval are $13,103.27.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of bills.
I second.
I'm sorry, was that you, Marty?
Yes.
You both sound identical. All right, any discussion? All right, we'll do roll call.
Okay. Lee?
Yes.
Hutnick?
Yes.
Oswald?
Yes.
Poznansky?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Van Wormer,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Saint Laurent.
Yes. All right, which moves us to our 2025-2026 budget. So everyone should have their budget in their packet. We've had the budget workshop, very similar budget to years past. I don't know if Kay, you could probably want to speak on some of the details a bit more.
So the revenue was adjusted. Again, I think they gave a 3% increase, which is a normal increase per year, which gives us a total revenue of $277,880. Expenditures, we moved a few things around to incorporate the full-time DDA director. We also moved some professional services that up to this category as well. So employee expenses are a total of $75,360. That includes Social Security taxes and other taxes. Office expenses, we did incur $1,700, or we're budgeting for that for office cleaning, as the bank has passed that along to us this year. Any other changes, we do need to update our computer systems. They're outdated, and the computer program that we have to get they're not compatible. So that was a line item for $1,300. We also increased our computer programming fees to allow for our new CRM. And then just the natural 4% increase in workers' comp and other insurance. So that total is $14,056. Under professional services, we were able to reduce the line items for legal fees down to $500. We're not anticipating any other major needs there. We increased our audit and contracted accounting fees for Plant Moran, just for natural increase in their rates, to $35,020. And that brings us to a total of $36,875 for professional services. Any questions there? Okay, and then marketing, the board decided that we were gonna focus more heavily on marketing and events this year, along with infrastructure. So that investment is $28,500 for marketing fees. That's our social marketing campaigns and other marketing. And then we allot the $2,500 for sign grants, which we did not use this year yet, but we are working on it. So that's a total of $31,000. We did budget $5,000 for CBD projects. So these are micro projects that we can get done with other grant funding. Our goals include at least 5 of those over the next year. So we have that budgeted. And then along with the $20,000 wayfinding project budget for our cash investment for any granting that we might receive for that. So that's a total of $25,000. The decorations are very similar to last year. We don't have anything increasing. We were able to decrease the holiday lighting for just installation this year. So the total for that is $78,500. For CBD events, again, the board has decided not to organize and put on these events, but we do want to still sponsor and support. So we have $10,000 allocated for major and minor events, along with $3,000 for paid advertising to go along with our attraction strategy and try to bring in more visitors. That total is $13,000.
And I just want to say for the public, the downtown decorations, it also, that $78,500 also includes all of our spring flowers too. It's not just Christmas.
So you said we're not gonna do any events?
we're gonna sponsor the events. So, Peach Fest, Vintage Fest, the Chamber has events they're hosting. The DDA has put together a group of business owners who are going to also put together micro events to fill in the gaps, and the DDA is going to support that.
Well, Winterfest, is that a different event?
We haven't had Winterfest in 2 years now.
I think we should get back to doing more of that. I think that that's what the DDA is meant to do. So as I go through this budget, I think that we fall short by not doing that. So
Actually, we've heard from a lot of businesses that they would prefer not doing all of these events.
well, I think they prefer us not getting in a political spectrum. They probably want us to get more into the event spectrum, I believe.
That's not the response we've gotten. Just in fairness, that's not the response we've gotten. What they've asked for is financial support, but for them to be able to create their own events. So this way, we're able to financially, just like we did for the Rotary is taking on Vintage Fest, but we're financially supporting it. They're gonna put the event on, they're gonna promote, have the event, do the legwork of it, but we're financially supporting it.
And we are looking for someone for Winterfest. We do have the 5K taken care of. So the high school cross-country coach is going to organize that event, which we will help sponsor. So we do want to have the events.
We'd like to chair it.
I'm shocked that the village doesn't want events. That's amazing. We just talked about how it's such a small town community.
It's not that they don't want events, they want to run their own events and have us assist financially.
And then it also takes people on this board to chair the events, and no one's stepping up to do it.
So I mean, if someone on this board wants to chair an event, our policy states that we have to have, for any event that we're gonna put on, we have to have a chair from this board, and we have not been able to have anyone on this board volunteer to chair any events. So this allows us to still support an event financially and give the money to those people that wanna put the events on.
Sure, maybe we got a little sidetracked. So maybe we should get back to doing that.
I mean, if you'd like to pick an event and share it, we can allocate money towards it.
I would like to be a DDA that puts on events for our village and in the beautification of our village and gets out of political altogether.
We're not in political.
I feel like we have slanted in that direction. That's my opinion.
But if you're willing to chair an event, then we can make adjustments on the budget for you to chair an event.
I'm willing to be part of a talk about putting on events. I feel like maybe our leadership needs to do that.
We've had those talks. We had the talks at the budget meeting, and we had the talks at our, our strategic planning meeting. We also sent out surveys to this board. We sent out surveys to the residents and to merchants downtown, and came up with a strategic plan based on those responses.
And I think we have to weigh some of this against spending money on fixing some of the infrastructure, which is beautification, like sidewalks.
I don't think that's our job.
According to the village council, some on village council, they believe it is. Because our businesses are using.
I'm allowed to have an opinion.
And so am I, and so are they. So they're.
But right now, they're in the process of, which is a concern, but since we're on the subject of this, they're in the process, as of the April 30th budget meeting, of, because they can't take care of the parking lots now, assessing a fee to all of the businesses in town to take care of parking and sidewalks.
That's the village. I agree. It's the village to do that.
Absolutely. So that's.
We don't need to be involved in that.
But I think the DDA, as a DDA, we're responsible for supporting these businesses. And part of that is helping offset some of that cost and fighting for them so they don't have to pay for it.
They're looking at thousands of dollars in. A year in assessments from the village now to take care of the parking lots and the sidewalks. And that's between the merchants and the village. I agree with you 100%. That's between them.
You can see our control of doing any of that is very limited. We tried to do something and it failed miserably, and we looked very bad.
Well, and now the village is going to charge every single merchant in town. And that's, again, that's their choice to do. That's a battle between the merchants and the village.
That's the village, though. They have to budget for whatever they have to budget for. I'm saying the DDA needs to shift our path. We are on the wrong path. That's my opinion.
In your opinion. Yeah,
My
I
opinion.
disagree.
I disagree.
We've had meetings, we've had strategic planning meetings, we've had budget meetings. This has never been something that's been brought up by anybody at any of these meetings.
I'm
And
only
that's
bringing it up because I hear very loud and clear that we should not be in the political realm.
But how is this budget in the political realm?
We haven't budgeted anything for any events. I think that that's.
But events
We
doesn't
did that
mean
for a
we're-
long time before.
And
The
they told
DDA
us
is
to
not
stop.
here as a party planning
Yeah.
committee.
I disagree. I disagree with you.
Then we agree to disagree, but that is not what the DDA
I mean,
is
I
for.
think that is the DDA's, is to bring people to our village. In a party planning
And there is more
situation,
than that,
great.
because there are many businesses here that do not benefit from an event such as that, yet their tax dollars must go to it.
They benefit from us doing
We
nothing.
have lawyers.
Fighting with the community over
We have
parking?
counselors, therapists, we have Pilates, they don't benefit.
No, but we need to do the other things that benefit
Yes.
everybody. And if you go back and read 1975 DDA law, we are not established to be a party planning program. We're established to work on infrastructure, you know, all the things that we've spent all the time in our strategic planning to create.
It's part of it. It's absolutely
And,
part of it.
and the way that this board has so far decided to do that is through financial support. There's no one on this board that's been willing to take on events, nor should we be, based on the results that we've gotten from our surveys, from the merchants, from the businesses, and from this board.
If we're not gonna have the same view on the village board, then we are fighting an uphill battle that we cannot win because we're not a trustee on the board. We don't
But
vote.
what battle on here can we not do?
I personally, I'm just saying, I would like to see, don't do it this year, whatever. I'm just saying, I would like to get back to doing some events in town. I've lived in Romeo for 40 years. I
Same.
like that. I always thought that was great.
And
So-
that's why we are financially supporting them. But there's nothing on our list that is a political thing. Flowers, Christmas decorations, promotions, marketing, wayfinding, these are all things that promote and support the businesses
Well, it
downtown.
sounds like you heard everybody loud and clear. Very good. I appreciate that. I don't know if your direction of our board is putting us in the best seat we can be.
Next month, you can put yourself up for chairperson if you'd like.
Chairperson? Sure.
Yeah, excellent.
How much are we
You have to come
giving?
to the meetings, though, don't forget.
How much are we giving?
And you have
for
to not
bus-
embarrass us at meetings.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, please.
How much are we giving each, like, say I wanted to host an event? How much,
How much you ask
how do
for.
we do that? We come,
Based on what the request is for.
so what is the limit
The
to that?
line item's in here, and then you come and ask.
Okay,
Up to 10,000
I
is
missed
what
it.
it's listed as.
okay.
And I just want to say, we've had budget planning meetings where this has all been discussed if people chose to come to the budget planning meetings.
The budget planning meetings were at 8 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and I run a large business. I told you I couldn't attend. You decided to move forward without it. That's your choice. You run it. I told you I couldn't attend.
After
But that
the
doesn't
fact.
mean I don't agree. I disagree with it.
So if you'd like to
I'm
make
allowed to do that.
make an adjustment on what you'd like to see the budget to go to.
Well, I'm not gonna do that right now.
Why? You can do that.
Move forward with it then. You stand behind it. The village doesn't have any events, great.
Well, it does have events, and we're financially supporting them, so I don't know
Okay.
where you're getting that idea from. Vintage Fest is being supported by the DDA.
We have to rely on other people.
We can rely on you if you'd like to do one.
Sarcasm, keep it up. It's getting you pretty far so far.
I'm good with
Seems
it.
like you have a lot of,
We have the Art and Wine Walk, that is
Yeah.
always well attended. The Christmas Home Store, that's always well attended, been around for a while.
my view's not gonna change. Either I can be on this board or not. I'm not political, and I'm not here to be political. If that's what this board is, then I'll resign right now. Because I'm not gonna be on a political board. I'm not gonna fight with the Village of Romeo. I've been here my whole life. We embarrassed ourselves. We embarrassed ourselves here, we embarrassed ourselves at the trustee meeting. And I'm not a part of that. I don't run businesses like that. If that's how you all wanna run a business, then today will be my last day. But you tell me one way or another. This is not, I don't wanna be a part of that. That was embarrassing, all around. All around. Go ahead, vote it in. I'm only one vote.
I make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, can we do a roll call?
I'm sorry, I have a question.
sorry,
I can
I'm
ask a
sorry.
question, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So at any given time in the next year, we are allowed to adjust the budget if we need to?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Budget amendments,
That's what I thought. I just want to make sure.
Poznanski,
yes.
Van Wormer,
Yes.
Hutnick,
Yes.
Oswald,
Yes.
Bowers,
No.
Rose,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
St. Laurent.
Yes. All right, moves on to our funding request. We've received a funding request from Downtown Pretzel Company is requesting $500, which would be coming out of our sign grant.
I make a motion to approve the request for $500.
I second the emotion to approve. The emotion.
You gonna start singing for us, Marty?
No one, you didn't hear me.
All right, since it's money, can we take roll call?
Lee,
Yes.
Hutnick,
Yes.
Oswald,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Van Wormer,
Yes.
Rose,
Abstain?
St. Laurent.
Yes.
Congratulations, John.
Very nice.
Looks good, John. Good luck. Great.
All right, so we'll move into our unfinished business. Okay.
Okay, so updates on Park Mobile, the DDA is in consultation with their attorneys. Still trying to figure how to undo all of that. The social district, we're still working on the social district proposal, management plan, and implementation plan.
What is that one, social district? Can you,
Yes,
Yeah.
a social district is a defined boundary within the DDA where patrons can leave a restaurant with their beverages and enjoy them while they stroll and shop and during events.
In participating merchants.
Yes.
You have to say you're participating and you're allowing the drink to come in the store.
Correct.
Are they allowed to cross the street
Yes.
or at the crosswalks? Or just, how
I
does that
think-
work?
I believe you have to still follow the law as far as crossing at crosswalks. I can't imagine that you'd be able to just, but at the crosswalks, yes.
what about when we have events in the village?
Yes.
Yeah, it would be like forever.
I mean, we get to,
If there's a
If there's a
motion
motion
made.
made.
and we're just planning at this point. There will be a full presentation, a full proposal, a management plan, all of that presented at a later date. But it is something we're working on, so we just want to give an update.
So once we get everything in order and it looks like it's going in that direction, I would like to propose that we have a town hall so the residents can come, answer any questions, and we just got to keep everybody
Of course.
updated.
I think that really goes against our village in so many ways.
Okay. Multimodal streetscape conceptual planning services continue with Giffords Webster. They are currently in the public engagement phase, and that will conclude in a couple of weeks, once they have their surveys back, and then they'll begin working on conceptual design plans to present to us. The art plan has been delivered, the grant has been submitted, and we're just waiting for an answer on that. The wayfinding and attraction strategy, we have received full conceptual designs as well as cost, and we'll be working on submitting a grant for that in the next 30 days. Spring decor.
Sorry, can
Uh-huh.
we just go back for a second? So
Yep.
in your packet, you have this crimson, and the digital packet you received, it's very, very, very long, so in the interest of saving trees, just the key points where you can see the concepts of the wayfinding signs and what they look like were printed for you. And then also the story that we're going to be using for marketing. We talked a little bit about it the last time, Return to Romeo. We have, at this point, I'm sorry if you said this, Kay, we're looking at financially how we can move forward with install and fabrication of these signs, and also how that plays into any sidewalk repair that we would move forward with doing, so we're not doing double work.
I think the signs look great. That would be
Look
really
very
nice.
nice.
They look very historical. I like them.
Can I ask that you explain when we say the current status right now is the public engagement section of our contract?
Yeah.
Because this is a subject which we do time and time again, and it seems as though then things happen, and then we get the public. So we're in that stage again with this project, if you can just kind of elaborate for everyone.
Yeah, so we hired Gibbles Webster to put everything together, and they started out by talking with the businesses, walking Main Street, walking downtown. They sent out a mailer. They've done surveys that they've sent to our businesses as well as posted them on our website, just trying to drive. I've got flyers at the door, just gaining that public sentiment and what they'd like to see happen. So that's the part they're engaged in.
It's on the
Gaining
village
that
website
feedback.
also.
What's that?
On the village website also.
Yeah.
And a lot of what they talked about when we walked around with them for a couple hours was safety. Looking at how do we make our sidewalks larger? How do we make them safer? How do we make them more walkable so people can go by, you know, the eating areas or the trees, the roots, I mean, everything in the quadrant where the coffee shop, the antique shop, all the different heights of the stairs and the slope and all of that was all part of that discussion. And how we can naturally slow traffic down in downtown without changing a speed limit. There's ways to do that, so that's what they're looking into and the plans that they're coming up with.
Okay, spring floral installation is still on track for May 23rd. And then I'll let Kathy speak to the Visionary Leaders Circle.
Okay, we have met a couple of times with several of the local businesses in town. And so it is a group of businesses that have been formed to lead and support business growth, collaboration, and event organization. The goals are to attract more visitors to downtown and also foster a culture of inclusion and connection among our business owners. So far, we have hosted 2 Velocity Roadshow events, bringing education on small business marketing solutions as well as multiple avenues of grant funding available through Macomb County. VLC has recently completed a summer calendar of micro events to help spur visitor traffic. These events include a Main Street sidewalk sale that will run concurrently with the community-wide garage sale. The event has been added to the Parks and Rec map of participants as well as a schedule of social media promotion. Other events planned include a cruise in Maine, classic car night, every Wednesday for 5 weeks in July and August, chalk walk, and a Golden Girls Day Out. So right now, we have scheduled a summer soiree to be held at the Douglas House Barn as a social event for business owners within the DDA. I've talked with Kay and feel like, again, it's always about communication. And a lot of the businesses in town we don't have the time or haven't had the time to communicate with each other what everyone is doing in town. If I'm having an event, I love to share that, my customers with those. Other businesses in town with that. So we thought that having a soiree at the end of the summer will help creating relationships, and it's a lot about that is creating relationships. And as the concerns here with Paul, I understand your concern with that, and I'm hoping that in doing this and getting the businesses involved gives them responsibility in helping these businesses, in these events to come alive and to be profitable for them with that. A lot of excitement. We've had several businesses involved, and just for instance, we're trying to do things in town where it's inclusive for the whole village. So we will get that information out to the businesses, and if you would like to be a part of it, we would love to see you there. Kay, what is it, on Wednesdays? What's the next date for the, I'm trying to think. We usually meet on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock, 3 to 4.
The first Wednesday
The
of
first,
every month.
first Wednesday of every month.
Wednesday.
Yeah. So please come and attend. We will get the information out to you. It should be very limited on what you actually have to do. Maybe it's just staying open an extra hour. It's going to depend on the event.
Where's it hosted?
Well, for instance, they'll be hosted in different places. So for instance, the Classic Car Show, we're looking at maybe possibly starting out with one part of Main Street and just from maybe 5 to 7, 5 to 8, have Main Street where the classic cars can park. And all they do is set up, and we might be asking the businesses, if they're open till 6, maybe stay open a little bit later till 7, just to let that strolling, that community going around, talking to the people with the classic cars, and hopefully that they're coming into the businesses to see what they're about. With Vintage Fest, I know that with Marty, you're working on it again this year, people love their classic cars. So we're hoping that'll bring people out, and there won't be a lot of cost to anybody, really. It'll just be a matter of doing the work with that. We will have other events scheduled later on, but right now we're just looking at the spring, summer events, and if anybody ever has any questions or they want to be involved in it anyway, please contact me. Main Street, MJC Marketplace. I'm there most of the time. You can give me a call or, again, talk with Kay.
Your next meeting on the first Wednesday, is that at the DDA office?
It's at the
Okay.
DDA office.
Cool.
Okay, and that brings us to the Romeo DDA strategy presentation and action planning. So we did engage POW Strategies to assist us in developing our next 5-year strategy, and that's what we've been really collaborating on and working on, just to keep us focused and make sure that we're reaching our goals.
So while she's setting up, I missed, what was said about the unfinished business for Park Mobile? Did we discuss any of that?
We're in consultation with attorneys right now to figure out what it looks like.
We have 2 contracts, one with Park Mobile, that's the easier one. There's a second contract with the village, and that's when we have to basically work backwards and dismantle it, because there was several different items in there. It wasn't just, there was quite a few items. So the Park Mobile, like I said, Park Mobile's the easy one, but the one with the village, we just have to basically make sure that each item on the contract with the village is addressed as we back out of it.
So we cannot terminate Park Mobile contract until we dismantle with the village.
Right, but it's in the process. So, I mean, there's nothing happening with it right now because the signs are down and the village isn't enforcing anything. So until we just have to check the boxes essentially and to undo what was done since it was contracted.
You can answer.
The brown plug? What's the brown plug for?
They want to know if they can talk. Is there any
There's no
public
motion.
comment for any of them, or is
No,
that at the
it's
end?
just a motion
It's
made.
at the end.
Yeah.
Just unplug it? Okay.
Try
Wi-Fi password?
There isn't one,
Not for here?
I can pull it up on my computer. You want your spread, your
the Parks and
presentation?
Rec, it's just free.
Yeah, because it's online. Oh,
Because I have it saved on my desktop. You want
do I have it in full version though?
You want to use my computer?
Do you have it in full version though?
Yeah.
Not just the
Yeah.
2x2? Okay. If you want to do that. Here, you want to do this? And then I can give you my clicker.
That will be fine.
Give me that. If it comes out. Do a swap. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, good evening, and thanks for having me back again. How much time do we have to go through this?
And we went through it last meeting,
Mhm.
but we wanted to hear your voice. So, we're familiar with it, so we don't have to take
Okay.
as much time.
Okay, all right. Good to know. Let's see how I go through this. All right, so just as a starter for this, strategic planning in terms of what we went through was really about determining really our prioritization for the next 3 to 5 years. It doesn't mean that there aren't other projects and programs that aren't important. It's just that where do they land in terms of the rise and fall of what has to happen first, as well as, what are those top priorities. So we do take a thorough process in looking at a SWOT analysis to help determine what those, that prioritization is in order to determine your strategy. We first started off by going through the mission statement, and you have an existing mission statement that we took a look at. And these options, just to help to adjust it based upon the input that we received with the SWOT analysis. The first one is just really kind of a twist of the words, moving the words around of what you already have in place. And then numbers 2 and 3 are, more of an extension to, I don't know if I can get this to show the whole screen because it's cutting it off a tad. Let's see, oh, there we go. Okay, got it. So the third one, a little longer, but we want the mission statement for the DDA to be easy for the board members to be able to articulate and use it when you're out in public. So number 2 is kind of where I land personally, just because it's a little shorter, a little sweeter, gets right to the point, and easy to incorporate into other things that you might discuss with residents or with businesses or visitors even. But we do want you as a board to decide which one of these you would prefer. So think about that as we're going through this. We then took a look at the vision, and the vision is, really, it is one of the pivotal parts. It's where are we going? What is the end goal that we want for our community? And definitely the respect for the history and the character of the downtown is extremely important. But then branching off of that, we want this to be a frequent destination for visitors, and visitors being both your residents and those who are coming from around the area that really help to support your businesses to become that favorite haunt for many people. But yet at the same time, while respecting history and character, we know that we have to make it livable and modern enough so that you can operate a business and live in a good quality of life in the district as well. Also taking a look at your organization vision, which is different. This is about the DDA organization itself and how it wants to function, where it needs to, where you expect yourselves to be, both as individuals within the organization and an organization as a whole. But those key points being that you want to be a united front, to be transparent and focused on your vision and mission, and, you know, in the end, to have a great impact on your community. Looking at the SWOT analysis, those bolded items are the top items that everyone voted on. So just for everyone to know is that we threw up lots of thoughts and ideas up on paper, and then we had everyone go around and vote for their highest priorities. And making sure people truly understood what their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are of the community, of the downtown, and the key assets. And all that plays into your overall strategy. I won't read these off just because I think for the most part everybody can see them. And for time. TIF plan projects. Also circling back around to the DDA's tax increment financing plan, making sure that the things that we're talking about today also relate back to the things that we put in place in the TIF plan a number of years ago, and that we keep our eyes on those projects and making sure that they are happening along the way in your TIF plan. The number one item that the board really felt that you needed to focus on going into these next couple years are your roads and your streetscapes. But the other items, as you can see there, still are in process, like the wayfinding is in process. The sod improvements still in process and kind of ramping that back up again. But also with your zoning enforcement, that's still an important aspect for you. And I think that kind of comes through in some other areas of your strategy. Did I skip over one? Sorry, I feel like I skipped something. Let me just go back real quick, because I feel like I skipped a slide. All right, well, I think there is one slide missing, but I'll see what that is. See if it's maybe somewhere else. Okay.
Go back one and scroll down. Go back one.
Go back one.
Scroll up.
No. Oh, yeah. Okay. I see. Gotcha. I was skipping. I thought this was page by page, so sorry about that. I may have skipped something else too. The vision statement itself, I think I skipped that. Let me go back real quick. Sorry. Vision statement, just going back real quick. So 2 options there. And really, it's just kind of a little bit of a switch of the words around in placement. But I really feel like either one of these just summarizes that overall vision of those key pillars that we talked about. So again, as a board, determining which one is one that you really feel comfortable with to be able to use, and then the interchangeability, right? You can use favorite hunt or destination, whatever just kind of feels a little more comfortable for you as a board. The other thing that I skipped, DDA role. So just as a reminder, the role of the DDA, and I love using this slide for all of my presentations because we tend to forget sometimes over time, right? So, but it is to improve the quality of life in the downtown and build that great sense of place and attract and retain residents and businesses to the area. But ultimately, you're trying to spur private reinvestment in order to increase property values so you can reinvest those dollars back into the district. It's a continuous cycle. And the work that a DDA can can do is vast. And that's why when we talk about, and what, you know, a lot of your conversations today, like special events and marketing versus doing infrastructure improvement projects. Yes, a DDA can do all of that stuff, but where are your priorities right now and what you need to be working on? So in terms of the needs assessment, this was the other side I was looking for, we looked at your physical, economic, social, and organizational needs. Again, the bolded items are the ones that were the most heavily voted on. The other ones were still strong contenders, but you can see some consistency between your needs as well as your SWOT analysis, where things are starting to align a little bit. And then metrics of success. These are the things that you said you want to try to achieve. You know, that tells you that what you've been working on, you have succeeded, or that you are succeeding at what you're doing. Obviously, the number of major and minor projects that are completed, but it's really about having those development projects happening within the district. And less complaints, more buy-in, you know, consumer and community buy-in to the programming and projects that you do. You want to see no vacancies. Every downtown wants to see no vacancies, and there's always going to be an ebb and flow. But we don't want to get too, obviously, heavy with vacancies at any given point or time. I think a lofty goal is really that budget that of trying to achieve a $500,000 annual budget. That's big. From where you're at right now and to get there. And that will take time to get there. You're not going to get there in 3 to 5 years, but over time you can build towards that. And that's the, you know, those are the funds that you can reinvest in the things that you really need into the district. You would like to see planned development for the Rawls Street and outer edges of the DDA, as well as helping to build upon parking that gears people to go to the most economical place to park. And economical mean beneficial for your businesses. You don't want people parking in places that is going to actually hinder your businesses as well. So, and then those walkability and the crosswalks, the streetscape concept planning that you're doing right now. And just overall, as a district, you want to see more visitors and longer duration of visitors, because the more they're here, the more they'll spend, and the stronger your businesses will be. All right, now I gotta go back. Oops, nope. I'll get used to this at some point here, okay? Key strategies. There are 2 key strategies that come from all of this information. And this is really just trying to boil it down and making it simple for everyone to understand and know where you're going. But you're trying to build a frequent destination as well as improving the downtown ecosystem. With that, frequent destination, the objectives there are to enhance the visitor experience and accessibility and leverage attractions and your market reach. So the first objective under frequent destination, enhancing that visitor experience, we want to optimize accessibility as much as possible, create great first impressions, and you know, more gathering spaces within the district overall. And to do some of that, looking at accessibility, the wayfinding is definitely one of them in terms of a task. Your streetscape improvements will definitely be another, but then also looking at parking lot improvements and the visitor app that you would like to build and have available. When looking at streetscapes and the connections also connections to trails, knowing that people are coming and going along that trail line and drawing them into the district and creating a day of it and staying in town, right? There are lots of things you can do in order to build upon your streetscapes and your trail connections. But looking at your amenities and making sure that you have a good handle on what you have in terms of amenities and what you don't have. So what's that inventory? And you can connect to the trail with art and history, which makes it engaging and interesting for people along the way and want to connect back into the downtown. But also, look at, accommodating for all people and companions, all modes of accessibility, as well as abilities. So a number of things here that you can incorporate. I won't list or read off everything here, but there's a lot of good ideas here for you to be able to utilize. And also looking at your parking lots, planning ahead, looking at a capital improvement plan to be able to work towards parking lot improvements, being ready for grants. So being ready for grants means you need to do those concept plans and the engineering plans, have it ready and in place. Be ready to be able to get to the point where you can actually do the actual physical infrastructure. And include, sustainable measures, because that will give you ability to go after those grants, because that's what typically grants are looking for. They don't want to fund a parking lot. They want to fund things that are going to improve your ecosystem overall. Also, in terms of funding this, right, overall, your infrastructure construction part, there's a lot of ways that DDAs and cities and villages go about it. But most parking lots are funded locally, and there might be a need for bond debting, and or you can do a pay-as-you-go. And if you pay-as-you-go, means you need to save up money, and then you can finally maybe do a lot. And then you got to save up money and then finally do a lot. Otherwise, bond debting, you can do a larger project and then pay on that bond debt over time. In terms of your wayfinding, I think you guys are well along your way, but making sure when you're thinking about your parking lots, making sure they're identified, possibly with naming or a numbering system, so it makes it easy for people coming into town, as well as entry and directional signage, and in refreshing your interior lot signage, especially your ADA and some of your rules that you have, because those are faded. Looking at other areas of accessibility is that visitor app. So there's a lot of pros and cons to visitor apps, but if you do go down this road, make sure to incorporate incentives and then do push notifications to try to draw people back into town overall. I'm gonna try to hustle along. Gathering spaces, first impressions, great first impressions. So when focusing on your facade improvements, making sure that you're focusing on historic improvements and improving that retail placement within your district. And what I mean by retail placement, let's move out some of those service or professional businesses that are on the main drag and get them to secondary streets or upper floors, because you want your main floor businesses to be retailers and service businesses that are truly bringing people in and out and will keep them connected throughout your district. It does mean enforcing your zoning compliance, but then there's other ways to build intrigue for people as they're coming through the district, and working with your businesses to do more window and street decor that incorporates with like your fall decor or the things that you're doing in the springtime to kind of build excitement. And one of the items that I love and I always like to point out is this open sign here. This is in Harbor Springs. Whenever you go into Harbor Springs, all the businesses that are open have this little sign that's sticking out, and you can see who's open. And it's just a great visual coming into town and knowing where you want to go and where you want to go next. I steal it and show it to everybody because I think it's fantastic. In terms of your gathering spaces, you start by planting seeds and identifying locations and opportunities, and don't forget about private sites, not just public sites. Where can you build more gathering spaces and partner with private businesses to kind of encourage that outdoor space and environment. And again, going back to the fact that if you want to go after grants, you need to start conceptualizing these ideas and getting concept budgets on the books so that you can go after the grants when they come available. Think about adding blade signs to your alleys, to the entries of your alleys for visibility purposes. And then, you know, look at movable seating and trash receptacles, or like in the park, equipment that's going to engage and bring people into the park to truly enjoy. And, you know, definitely with your art and your history here, integrate your gathering spaces with art and history overall. I will always profess, you know, having things that are lighter, quicker, cheaper. You want some small projects to be able to do that. There's some great grant opportunities through Patronicity. So working with MEDC with Patronicity. So definitely do look into that. For more details, you know, I can go over that with you a little bit later. Oops, did I forget one? No, just gotta go up. Forgetting my rhythm here. The other thing is low-hanging fruit. There's always big projects out there. And if you're only working on the big projects and nobody ever sees anything getting done because it takes years to do those big projects, you got to have some low-hanging fruit items, those small items that people get excited about and keep them enticed along the way. It's always a little bit of work balancing both, and that's a balance within your budget and a balance within your workload overall. But there's definitely benefits with that. The other part of your frequent destination objective, leveraging attractions and your market reach. Doing a retail recruitment strategy and tourism marketing plan. This is in here really as a reminder, because I know we went over this before, but this is your target market area. You have a good sized target market area that you're drawing in, but you know, looking at some of the things that you can do about growing that visitor duration and frequency, you know, targeting your social media towards recreationalists, ecotourism, history and vintage seekers, you know, dive a little deeper in terms of how you're really targeting your ad dollars. And then also co-op marketing goes a very long way for everybody. So partner with your businesses on co-op marketing campaigns to help reach a little bit further. And then also those push notifications and geofencing to, you know, when they're coming through the area, hey, reminder, stop into downtown
Hey, Christina,
Romeo.
before you go on.
Yeah.
The demographics, what is that people that are coming into town? Does that include residents?
That is your target market area.
Okay.
So that is your whole target market.
Okay.
And that's your 70% of visitors.
Okay.
So your 70% of visitors is Romeo, Washington Township, Utica, and Armada, and then the Almont, Ray, Macomb, and Lakeville areas. You know, obviously Romeo's and Washington Township are the two largest parts of it. And then there's a lot of other smaller communities, you know, around the area. But when you aggregate all that together, that is the demographic makeup. And the consumer trends in terms of, you know, the number of visitors and the year over year in terms of your growth. Your year over year in terms of growth has been great. And really, this year over year one, don't be scared by that, because remember, this was only a partial year that we were actually weighing this against. So we only had about 8 or 9 months of the year. So we still didn't have like the fourth quarter as part of those numbers. So your numbers would actually be higher, I think. You'd still show continued growth. Not everybody is showing continued growth in their communities at this point. I can tell you that much because of just changes in the marketplace overall. Business opportunities. When looking at what you have to offer, we also take a look at your sales leakage. So you do have some leakage in terms of grocery and quick serve restaurants and foods. And then you have an advantage leakage, right? So nature, recreation, and events. People are coming into the area for this. bring them and keep them here because of that. So it's an advantage for you. But the retail needs, and what does that mean, and what you can look at. Look at the, retailers that might offer recreation or outdoor, clothing, apparel, or equipment. Maybe small grocers might be an opportunity, or those quick in and out, so your QSRs. And then home and experiential. You have a lot of great home businesses already here. Continue building upon that, because you'll make a niche for that and continue growing that niche. And experiences, everybody wants experiences these days. You gotta find ways to create experiences at every single turn. So when you look at that in terms of a business recruitment strategy, as I said, lean into the businesses that will grow your destination. And when thinking about trying to recruit those businesses, maybe look at doing a location incentive that is geared at these sectors. Don't give a location incentive just to anyone to come here. You want specific businesses to come here, okay? And then also, just remember, you have a unique selling proposition for any business who is looking to come here. And, to really go back to this market information and share that information, create your market profile, so that people truly understand what Romeo has to offer, okay? Tourism marketing, there's a number of things that you can do to enhance your tourism marketing, including your listings and searchability, adding the downtown and the assets to other listings in Google, like the Google page. But Pure Michigan is one, TripAdvisor, Yelp, TrailLink, there's a bunch of these. So, spending the time to kind of, to work on that back end to make sure that, everyone can find you pretty easily. And in terms of events and promotions, when having events and promotions in your district, no matter who does it, you want to make sure that you're hitting upon a couple areas. You want events that build community awareness and brand recognition. You want those that ring registers, as well as events that build community goodwill and engagement. So leverage the existing signature events that you already have by creating retail promotions during these events and incentivizing visitors to stay in town. Encourage your shops to stay open later. And hearing that discussion, that's great. Keep that up. Those are the things that we need to do, right? Especially during the season when everyone is out. Make as much money as you can during the time that everybody is really here, right? And when looking at your the potential for your social district, think about collaborations with that. And collaboration's not from restaurant to restaurant, but retailer to restaurant. So making sure that you're helping businesses work on those collaborations as well. Encourage organizations to coordinate new pop-up events and promotions, and doing that funding for those types of events will be really helpful. And there's a lot of great things you could do, ghost tours or antiquity tours, as well as, expanding your holiday weekends with the home tour and doing things in the downtown. Looking at your visitor app and building out incentives, as well as really promoting those niches that you have, your restaurant, your history, your antiques, and your art. So 1 to 5 years to be able to do this. I kind of put this in a logical order for the most part, based upon the things you're already working on too. So just know that this is just kind of an extended game plan. We know that the big things, the parking lots, the streetscapes, they're going to take a couple years to get to completion. That's okay. You keep working on that. Did I forget anything? Make sure. Oh, I did. Event assessment. Just so you know, we did do an event assessment as well, and looking at what our highest priorities are, and then as well as some of the medium priorities too. All right. Your second strategy is that downtown ecosystem. And there's 4 main objectives here: growing community involvement and understanding, increasing board engagement, providing business support, and managing long-term growth. I'm probably going to speed through this really fast just because I know we're getting a little long in the tooth here. But growing community involvement and understanding means that you're going to need to have a good communications plan, strengthen your local partnerships, and do a volunteer outreach and management plan as well. What does that kind of entail and look like? In terms of a communications and marketing plan, there's a number of things that you look at, but everything from defining your audiences and making sure that you're developing goals and objectives and messaging based upon those different audiences. And audiences would be residents as one, right? Versus businesses and the differences that, either one of those need as a for instance. And then also, being very strategic about your volunteer management plan, and who you're bringing on to be volunteers. You want to seek out and invite volunteers, not just do an open call, because we need very specific skill sets and folks to do certain things, right? Very specific tasks. And make sure then you're arming your volunteer workforce with roles and responsibilities. You have to build that framework for really what is the job at hand and what's the reward for it. We do definitely want to create a reward system for volunteers because they are giving of themselves, of their time, of their passion, probably of their families, everything. So, and you're volunteers yourselves. So, think about that as a whole, right? How do board members feel rewarded in the end? How do other volunteers feel rewarded in the end? What does that really look like overall? There's some great resources at the Michigan Main Street Solutions Center for a lot of this. And strengthening your local partnerships, and especially with the village. But there's a number of things that you can be doing, but having some working meetings with the village and making sure that you're really defining your roles and responsibilities in a communication plan between these two groups. It's very important. You'll get so much more done when you're working together and, going towards those success moments and celebrating them together. Same thing with other partners, other partnering organizations. You need to sit down and figure out who are your partners or who your partners could be and determine a goal that you would like to try to achieve with them, and then meet with them and talk about it, but also listen to them as well. You want to hear what's on their docket, what do they want to achieve, and then see where that all actually intertwines and develop an action plan to work together. I usually have board members do their own pitch. I won't make you do this at the moment, but I will put this on your list to do at night, when you're sitting and have nothing to do. Write down your little pitch, introduce yourself, state the organization mission, the vision, why you're doing it, share a success story. People love to hear success stories. And then talk about a goal or project as an organization that you're trying to achieve, and where do you need help, and how people can get involved. It's as simple as that. But if you actually write it out and practice it, it'll become second nature when you're out in the public. Board engagement. So definitely focusing on merchant outreach, creating some better systems for project management, board preparedness, and bylaws, policies, and updates, and board recruitment. So with merchant outreach, some of the things that we talked about in the strategic planning session consisted of hosting meet and greets at the place of business and or the DDA office. And maybe you do that, you kind of rotate it around. making sure you're inviting businesses consistently to board meetings, having that monthly newsletter going out, and a quarterly programmatic plan so that businesses know what to expect for the next season coming up. And then looking at, board member visits. It shouldn't be just the executive director going business to business and saying hi and how you doing, what's going on. It needs to be board members going out there and doing the same thing. Your feedback might be a little bit different than what the executive director gets back too. And those are two important things. Compare notes sometimes because you might be getting different stories. And then look into a SMS text messaging system to improve that immediate two-way communication. I think that every downtown needs to be doing that. It's something that, in this day and age, to be able to get a hold of businesses, we just need easy, immediate engagement. And they really do too, because they're not sitting at computers reading their emails. They're not. Right? All right, in terms of project management, I want you to focus on aligning your projects and tasks with board and volunteer champions. So again, board members, take on a project, raise your hand. I know it's hard sometimes, but your arm actually does extend out. And then leverage the board's greatest strengths. Looking at the strengths that you already have, right? And really leaning into them. But when you're looking for new board members, look for the areas where you don't maybe have as much strength in. You felt that some of you, weren't worriers or warriors, and maybe you need a worrier and a warrior on your board, right? So we need someone in all these areas to really have a good, strong, balanced board, but also look at your industry gaps. Because, you can get sometimes maybe too retail heavy or too restaurant heavy. So always consistently look at, where are the business owners who are on the board, where are they coming from, right? So right now you have probably a need for somebody from arts and from restaurants. And that's just more looking at a balance overall. And I know that you still have like one position still available, correct? Yeah. All right. Also, to improve board engagement is just making sure that you're prepared as a board member and, your executive director can get you as prepared as possible, right? Making sure that you have a packet that has all your vision, your mission statement, your strategy, your action plan in it, and the roles and responsibilities, and having that elevator pitch prepared and ready. Also, look at continuous training. You have opportunities for training with tax increment financing and PA 57, but there are also some processes that need to be updated, which include your bylaws and your purchasing policy. And then really, just to engage more, right? We want board members to come prepared for meetings, read your packets beforehand, and be ready to ask questions. And I know I always say, hey, if you have a question ahead of time, then I might be able to bring additional information to the meeting to be able to answer it at the meeting, right? So, even submitting those questions ahead of time. Responding timely to requests. I cannot reiterate enough how much we need to be respectful of each other and respond to people. It is hard, I know, there's time commitments, and you might be stretched thin, but we need to be very mindful of each other as board members and board to staff, and vice versa. So we just want to make sure that we are doing our best to try to be engaged. Providing business support, building a business retention program, looking at co-op marketing and collaborations, as well as updating your business and building inventory are important. In terms of your business retention program, looking at developing a team of experts to assist with, or to just do one-on-ones with businesses. Go out there and do business visits and, talk about their business. And, really dive into the details of how are things going, what kind of resources do you need, where do you need help. And this is where you can then lean on some of the resources and grants that are out there to be able to share that information to help local businesses thrive. But get in front of issues that are persisting, like the permit process and codes, right? We need to really get a handle on that. And the DDA can take an active part with the village to really help to assist that overall. Again, your facade improvement grants noted previously before what to focus on, but making sure that you're communicating those out, as well as looking at doing a retail location incentive, as I mentioned before as well. But this could also help to expand existing businesses. It doesn't necessarily just have to be for new businesses coming in to meet some of your product need. It can be for existing ones. And also in terms of that co-op marketing and collaborations, looking at, niches that can be strengthened and complementary businesses. And then look at your seasonal gaps with retail promotions that help to ring registers. So again, those smaller little events that get people from door to door. In terms of your business and building an inventory, overall, this will help you better understand your business mix and your needs and identify any gaps and problems that you might have. But it will also definitely be the backbone of your communication and management system. And the one that you're looking at, the District 360, is a great tool. So definitely one that I recommend. Overall, managing your long-term growth, right? So we want to be leveraging funding resources, property development, and having a capital improvement plan in place. Looking at leveraging funding and resources, there are some opportunities out there for you. Pursuing a CLG designation, certified, oh my God, I just blanked out on it.
Local government.
Thank you. It's been a long day. But it will help you to access National Park Service and SHPO grants and assistance. So spend the time. It's a little bit of a lengthy application process, but it is worth the time to get those dollars. And then also looking at the Main Street designation. Again, start exploring it, researching it, and seeing what's really going to be involved as board members, and really building that community involvement, that grassroots community involvement in what you're doing. But the Michigan Main Street Center also does provide grants and assistance when you do get into that program.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Maybe Megan, you would remember. Did we ever have the Main Street designation?
No.
I feel like we did it years ago.
We did.
Like
Did
20
you?
years ago.
Oh.
Long time ago. Don't,
The Main Street project.
We had MRP.
no, the Main Street designation, like the official, I felt like we did
I
it.
feel like we did.
I think you were working on it.
But
Yeah.
again, we're talking like 15, 20.
20, yeah, but that's
Okay.
the blueprint project? Does that make sense?
And it could have been initially when the state of Michigan first had the Main Street program, and then it went defunct. And it may have gone away with that
Because
potentially.
I feel like it was when I was on the board like 20 years ago. It was like forever ago.
Saputo? Was it?
Yes,
Nancy?
with Janine's,
Okay.
yeah, yes.
I don't know, just remember Saputo.
Yeah,
Janine
so,
Saputo, yes, okay.
but you would have to go through a new process
Sure.
with the state. And I can definitely get you all the connections in order to start looking into that overall. But also, creating a fund development plan to help meet that revenue goal that you're trying to achieve, right? You're not gonna get to it, overnight by any means. but looking at other ways to raise dollars besides tax increment financing. I always say diversify, diversify. You need to as a downtown, you need to as an organization overall. You shouldn't be dependent on one income source. And then looking at property development, your design guidelines for facade program and new developments. I think that is needed. You know, you have a facade program in place, but there are no boundaries as to why you will award someone funds. And again, I think it needs to go back to what you're trying to achieve. A zoning guide. Zoning ordinances are horrible to read. Make it simple. Do like if it's a 2-pager, maybe, 4 at the most, but like hit upon the highlights that are the most important for your district. And maybe like the things that always seem to, trip people up or they always have questions about. And, including that in a 1-pager that would be available for businesses and helping, and as businesses come into the village to the front desk, it's something that you can just hand out and go, here, this little, starter guide will help you, right? Also, again, circling back, looking at Rawls Street and the outer DDA edge properties as to really what do you want to do, if anything, with these sites. So having those conversations, and that's for something probably a little longer down the road, but that's what we're doing. We're looking at managing your long-term growth overall. All right, let's see. Again, 1 to 5 year plan. I think out the gate, working on that communications plan and that volunteer management plan. Those are 2 things that you need to just hunker down and do it. And then, work on then that outreach that is needed then after that, because that kind of follows everything else. And, oops, did I miss one? Sorry. I did. Capital improvement plan. When doing a capital improvement plan, which is a CIP, stands for CIP, get specific about the projects that are needed and create that timeline and estimated budget and rank priorities, but do this in collaboration with the village. And you're gonna have tough decisions down the road as to how we actually get this done, right? But look at really what you wanna try to get done first. All right, just as a recap, I always love to bring this in, but Main Street really professes, 8 guiding principles, and these top ones are like huge. You have to be comprehensive. As a DDA, a Main Street program, a downtown management program, whatever you are, you need to make sure that you're firing on all sides of things with business recruitment and retention, with marketing and promotions and events, with your infrastructure design and physical improvements and visual appeal in the downtown. But know that it's all incremental. You can't get it done overnight, and you have to do it yourself. So, definitely the partnerships will help you to do it, to get it done in a faster way too. So just as a summary, you have 2 major strategies: frequent destination and downtown ecosystem, and then there are the objectives that are with that. And then Kay printed out the spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet you still have some gaps to fill in. So you need to talk about those. Oh, I can get there. Your deadlines, right? When do you want to try to achieve these things? How many volunteers are needed? What resources are needed for it? And, looking at budgets overall. And this will help you to really better keep track, and something that you should be utilizing all the time to help you keep track of your workflow. You're always free to add or delete, but if you add or delete, compare it against your core values and making sure that it hits upon your core values. And I think that was one slide that I did miss somewhere along the way, those core values. Let me see if I can find it. It's probably on one of those secondary pages. I missed, yep, there it is. But economic growth, community-minded, communication, and historic. Those are your core values. So if that program or project doesn't meet one of those, you shouldn't do it.
And then if we're trying to measure which solution is the best solution, how do we, what data do we look at? Could we compare to other areas? Like, how do we know this might work over something else?
Any specific project or program you have in mind?
Well, I mean, even for our streets, you know, if we want to do the bond, if we want to do the, you know.
Right.
What are we, I mean, there's going to be lots of opinions about what the best way to do it is. So how do we measure what that is?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you do have to look at, you know, maybe other communities to benchmark against and see, you know, how did they achieve what they achieved, right? What were the best routes that they took? And does that seem like a reasonable path for you? And, you know, it'll get down to numbers. You know, if you're doing bonding, you know that then you're paying down a bond debt. It means you have less to do on an annual basis with the other things, right? But at the same sense, if you're doing it as a pay-as-you-go, you got to save up. So you have to pay for it one way or another, right? So you're saving up your shiny pennies in order to save for a project in 3 or 5 years to be able to get it done. But there are ways to, you know, balance that. I think it boils down to what your highest priorities are. And I did, you know, do some priority ranking in there for your objectives. And, you know, that's where those dollars should be focused, you know, at the onset. And then you'll have to just kind of adjust a little bit. I think metric-wise is, are you achieving that metric of success? Do you feel like it's really working overall? It's hard when you're in the midst of, in the heat of like doing a project or weighing 2 projects that you should do. You know, going back again to economic growth, right? What's going to deliver you the most economic growth would be a question, right?
And how do we base that? Based on what? My opinion, somebody else's opinion? How do we look at that data?
You know, economic growth might mean, you know, some different things to other people, but for a DDA, ultimately, is it going to increase your tax increment financing capture? I mean, nuts and bolts at the bottom line. Does it increase that tax increment financing?
Okay, and so once we've, you know, this board has said, yes, this sounds like these are our priorities, and the board turns over, how does this board ensure that these projects stay on track, knowing that they're not gonna happen tomorrow, that it's gonna take a couple of years, especially these big ones? How do we make sure if, you know, 4 or 5, whatever, are gone, and the next group is here? Okay.
Training.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, because we all roll out within anywhere from 2 to 3 or 4 years. So as a new person comes into each one of our roles, how do we,
It's
you know,
it's
sure we have it,
continuous
you know,
training
that there's a
and
plan?
yeah, I mean this shouldn't sit on a shelf and, you know, collect dust. This should be brought out all the time and looked at, as well as communicated out, you know, again and again to the public about what you're doing and what you're working on. Because then those who are coming onto the board will probably already have a good idea of where it's trying to go, right? And you know, there will always be like competing thoughts or ideas as to what to do. But looking at data, right? Looking at your target market, looking at what those things are telling you, in order to increase business economic growth. We're trying to drive more people into the district more frequently and keeping them here longer to be able to do that and spend dollars here. And then ultimately, that creates investment within the buildings and the properties, and then continues to increase the tax increment financing as well. But I think that, you know, it is always a challenge. There's always turnover, and there's also amnesia. And it's going to be those who are still here, their job to make sure that you're bringing everybody up to speed on what you've been working on. I think any volunteer coming into any organization is always going to ask, what have you been doing? What are you working on right now? Where do you need my help? Right? And reassessing, you know, I always like to reassess this, right? Are we on target? Every year, looking at this and going, hey, is this, you know, still our priorities right now? Has anything shifted slightly? I would say in your first 3 years, it's not going to change much. But by year 5, it will start to shift because some things will, you know, not be needed anymore, right?
I think there's 2 important points that we have to keep focused on too, and one of them is community engagement. How are some of these goals and objectives going to be met? Well, we need community engagement. We need people coming to the meetings. We need people to know about what we are working on, because that community is going to, whether it's this group at the board or the next group at the board table, keep us on track. Hey, wait a minute, you said you were doing this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
And secondly, has to do with, in our case, the village communications, the village buy-in. Because that's another thing. We can put all of this into motion, and it can come to a screeching halt when, you know, we're not getting buy-in where we need it. We're a group, we're an entity, we're all together in this, and between the community and the village, that's where we have to focus, I think, in your point of how do we keep this going, how do we meet these objectives, even when it's not you sitting there, but it's the next person sitting there. So I know.
Or if, you know, you're in the middle of it and you're kind of going down a path, how do we work to
a lot of time can be spent and wasted, and money can be spent and wasted if we, you know, if it comes to a screeching halt midstream. So we need to, right at the front end, make sure we've got the buy-in and we've got the community engaged as well.
So on what, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to what John was saying. I think as much as this is a DDA strategic plan, it's really ultimately a Village of Romeo plan, because a lot of these things coexist with the village trustees or the planning commission. A lot of these you can't do on your own. So with your other villages that you've worked in, how do you get all of them to collaborate? Because we don't want to waste a bunch of time to talk about zoning when in reality we have very limited teeth to change any zoning requirements. So, you know, offer up some incentives for companies or developers to come into town. We, again, have very limited teeth in that. So, you know, I think that having a meeting to go over this as a group would be a lot more efficient than to just be picking and choosing things. I mean, even take the sign thing. I mean, we like these signs, but if zoning doesn't approve of them, then we're all kind of wasting our time. So, yeah, a subcommittee of a sort that, you know, we are all, like, this is not, the Village of Romeo is small in general. I mean, the village, the DDA, represents a large portion of it. I think if we all work together, it's in the benefit of everybody's interest. So, just like with the parking thing, we probably would have got a lot farther down the road if we would have had maybe more of a plan of attack, I guess, for long term.
I disagree completely with that statement, because we spent months on that. We had subcommittees with the village, and it's okay to sit there and admit that there was mistakes made or go a different route, but to say that there was, that like we didn't plan this out
Well,
is
no, and I get that, but then we're gonna do nothing moving forward with it.
No, but I mean, Like, you wanna talk about that, what about having the village say, okay, let's go ahead and do this, and then we bank on that, and then they pull the rug out from under us?
I agree,
I'm a little disappointed
Right.
about that.
Well, that's what I'm going back to. It has to be a strategic plan across every avenue. And we are only control a little portion of that. So I think your presentation was great, most of which I seen in the presentation involves a lot of other people that we don't control. We've seen that with the parking. It can all fall apart pretty fast. Our little portion, and then we got made to look bad, and yeah, maybe it wasn't great and blah, blah, but how do we make sure that we don't go down the same path again? That we spend a lot of time and effort and money because we want to do this, but the zoning people don't want to do that, or the village trustees don't like that. And I almost feel like a subcommittee is needed, and then even an action board with the community would be great. There was 31 slides you had, and I think it was a great presentation, but the problem is when things are so overwhelming and it's such a mountain to climb, you end up doing nothing. So I don't want to do nothing. I'm not on this board to do nothing. I can tell you, that's not how I work. I want to pick and choose the things that everybody buys into and do them really well. Make sure that we all are on the same page. I'm pretty sure this board, the trustees, and everybody else in this room understand that history is important to this village, so pick out something that makes sense for that. But we got to have a starting point.
Well, that's what this is. This is a starting point too, because everybody's going to have a different idea of what should be done first. And this kind of helps us target all of our efforts into one thing at a time with like little projects along the way. So that's what all of this was, like hours and hours of collaboration.
But you go to movable seating and trash receptacles. Great idea. The problem is it involves a ton of permits and codes and everybody else. So it's like, if we like that, great. We can put a little X by it. If it doesn't go through all the other people that we don't have control over, we just wasted our time talking about and doing nice pictures.
Well, and I agree with you on that. But where I think the bigger concern is my understanding, and not to beat a dead horse and talk about the parking forever, but we did go through all those steps, right? So my bigger concern on what you're saying is not, are we gonna cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's? Because we did, right? We were on a joint committee, we had the meetings, the village council is the one that made the motion. My bigger concern is if the village council can stop it at any point, where is our protection? So my question is, and I'll just use an example that I had brought up to Kay, this art installation. Board has approved the location, we're out for a grant. What happens when we get that grant for $10,000? We have spent 3 of it, we're mid through the project, and the village council says, you know what, we're not gonna do that anymore.
Yeah.
We're financially on the hook, which is what happened with the parking. And this isn't about parking, this is about where is the project and where
and it's
do
about
we
having confidence in
do
the
we go in
village.
with a legal agreement with the village? How do we protect that at any point we're spending money or we're accepting a grant and essentially we're taking the risk and the village can make a motion and say, yep, no more signs, we don't like that anymore. Or you know what? The Boy Scouts said it's not fair and they want to have something there instead. And they say, yeah, you know what, we're going to pull that permit. Well, we've already spent $3,000 out of that grant. It's not the village that's paying back the grant, it's the DDA. So how do other municipalities or other DDAs or main streets protect themselves when the person that's giving the approval has the chance to rescind that approval?
I think that's where we can bring up or draft up a contract with that person and have them sign it.
We had a contract.
With their signatures on it?
Yes.
The contract.
We had a contract and they.
Oh, I saw that.
So, and I mean,
What is
that's
your,
where.
let's let Christina
Yeah, so I
answer.
mean,
What
I
are your
guess,
thoughts,
what do we
Christina?
do? How
And
do we do that?
And I mean, we're talking varying scales of projects and programs, right? So, you know, it does really start, I think, at a basis of truly understanding where you want to go with things and that everyone is lock in stock, right, with this plan. And so I think starting there with the village and saying, these are the things that we want to achieve.
And going back to that with the parking real
Yeah.
quick, not to interrupt you, but that's why I said before, and it got kind of heated for a second, is the things that we don't have budgetary control over, parking, stuff like that, I would shy away from those and go towards the seating and trash receptacles. It seems like that's going to be a lot easier sell to somebody, and pick off some items that will beautify the downtown without large village budget and tax things that we don't have any control over.
And I agree with you.
I'm not
I don't disagree
arguing.
with you.
No,
You know what
I don't
mean? I'm just-
disagree with you. I just want to
Yeah.
remind everybody how the parking started. It was on the
I know,
pile.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on the pile-up, and we wanted a
thought
way.
we checked our
Yeah.
boxes, right?
Well,
We
and the
thought when
village
we
gave
went
it
in-
to us to figure out.
Yeah,
so
so
we
just
figured it
to
out.
give the history, the village made a motion for us
Yeah.
to run with this. We did that. We had the meetings. We brought it back to the village. They made the motion and said, okay, go with it. So
And unanimously voted.
And unanimously
multiple
voted.
times.
And
So
the
nobody
frust-
saw this coming.
Right, so the frustration is, I just want to be clear, the DDA did not say, let's do paid parking and slide something through. This, we in good faith, did all of those things that you're talking about and that I agree with you on.
Right.
Where is our protection that it's not going to happen again?
Even parking, or benches and seating
Yeah.
and trash receptacles, something small like that. I mean, we could buy trash receptacles and something else, and they say, I don't like them.
I say it's two types of things. We're either a board that does flowers in events, and that's what we are, or we're a board that is doing this, which I think this is great. You want to turn into a real city, the village, and have all these, then you have to do something. This is how you run a business, but you got to be one or the other. You can't be, want to make all these changes, and as soon as somebody doesn't like them, then we revert back to just going back to doing flowers and things. So it's either one or the other. I like a lot of these things on here, but where do we go from there? That's all I'm asking. That was my original question. I think that's where John was at.
I'm on the same page with you. How do
Yeah.
we assure that when we've done our due diligence, right, whatever those steps are for any specific project, how do we essentially protect ourselves from the village council making those decisions that they made without really a
Or
second
planning
thought?
or zoning or anybody else that has a
Well, we would have
choice.
already gone through planning and zoning by the time it got to the village for
Okay.
approval. So, we would have, that would have been during our due diligence. But at the point that we go to the village and say, we would like to spend, for sake of argument, $50,000 to buy this seating, these
Right.
garbage, and they say yes, and then what's to say 30 days later, they're not gonna say, you know what? A lot of people aren't liking the garbage containers you picked
Right.
out, we
Gotta
wanna
go.
get rid of them. That's my concern. Where does that protection come in?
And if I could step in, I
Yep.
completely understand and hear where you're coming from, and I feel the frustration myself. I do have an intention to bring us all back together. I wanted a little time for us to take a step back. Actually, one of my comments that I wrote down was at speaking with Christina, how we would bring the groups back together. And if you could recommend a neutral party, not necessarily I leading it, Andrea leading it, bringing in a neutral party, that we could have these discussions, stay on, that person would keep us on point,
Yep.
not deteriorate into mudslinging, but actually get us somewhere. We need to have the tough family conversations, and then at the end of it, we need to get on board with each other and support one another, however that looks.
Have you presented this to the trustee board or anybody else?
No,
It's
We hired the-
No, and
It's
I-
just to you.
Okay, I mean,
We have to make final decisions before we go forward with it.
Yeah, I think in general, it's a great plan across all aspects of the village, including what the trustees are trying to do, maybe to get everybody to buy into the ideas that we're trying to work towards.
Well, I think there needs to be a trust. As
Right.
in the village, at the village level, we are the large asset management infrastructure. Your focus is the downtown, and we need to, as a council, trust that this board and these people are doing the best of intentions for that downtown district.
I totally
A
agree.
DDA is empowered to focus on the economic growth of the downtown, and that empowerment needs to come from the village.
And sometimes it's hard.
Yep.
As a council, we are all leaders. We didn't walk into those spots quietly. We walked into them loudly, asking for people to vote for us. So it's hard sometimes to let go of a little bit of control or to let others have ideas also, but we need to work together in that. I believe 100%, everybody, council, planning, DDA, ZBA, we all have the best for the village in mind, but we all have different avenues of getting there. We need to pick some common ones and start working on them and see that we can work together and trust one another.
I agree, and I think to Paul's point, you know, is maybe we need to start with something small, like maybe let that trust gets built. Again, my biggest concern is that once that commitment's made, and once one of those groups takes that financial commitment and legal commitment and is signing contracts, because they were told, sign the contract, then what happens?
My only
Because-
answer, Andrea, I wrote just off the top of my head, was that the village takes that on. If the village is the one that can make and break, then there would be no, if a contract comes up in that way, the village takes that contract on.
Yeah, that's the only way, so the parking was never wanted, I never wanted that to be the hill that I died on, like.
Right.
But to see us go through all the steps and go through months, like almost a year of work, and them vote, and then to watch them just say, forget about it, like, how do we even go, okay, I wanna put these kind of flowers out, and have them be like, okay, and then now we've gotta get rid of the flowers. They could do it to literally anything. If you've got a contract in place, a legal contract in place, and they can throw it out the window.
I mean, they
can
threw
do
their
it
own
to
contract
anything.
with us out the window.
I mean, I have a whole lot of faith in the people that live in this village. I think that if we make quality choices on flowers and seating and trash, that they will stand behind us. The parking thing was pretty polarizing. It is what it is. We're gonna move past that, or we're never gonna get past that, so.
No, I agree,
you
it's
know.
not about the parking thing. Again, my only concern is that as a member of this board, if we're gonna expend money based on another board's,
yeah.
that's my concern, because.
That was the premise of what I was bringing up.
So then maybe the contracts have to be written that if they're the party that cancels it, then they assume the financial burden.
Yep.
And we need to start small and work our way through stuff, or we're just not gonna do anything. I mean, I'm just being honest.
I agree, I think that's probably how we start to hopefully rebuild that trust, is let's get a successful, small thing off the ground. But again, like
Well, and I
just,
just want to bring up, I mean,
Yeah.
this project with Crimson was a grant that we got.
And that looks good. I like it.
Right, and we spent hours and hours and hours and hours in time, and we're checking all the boxes, and we're, you know, the village
Yeah.
is included in this.
So that was,
And-
okay, real quick. So when you send that, you send it to like planning and they look at it
When
before
we're
we get
ready
too
to
far?
install,
Okay.
correct, yes, so we have
For
to,
final
we're getting final numbers
It's
with
just
how
a
much.
concept.
It's a concept. So we get final numbers, and, you know, it's under $200,000 to fabricate and install.
Yeah.
That's not bad. To me, I don't think that's bad for the number of signs that were.
for the whole
I
building.
think they look good too. I mean,
And-
you guys, they did a good job. I
So
like
my
that.
point is, I feel like that number is somewhat of low-hanging fruit. It's a small project in that it's not the millions for sidewalks.
Yeah.
Could you guys just, it's hard to hear up here when there's conversation there.
So could this could be a big impact with low cost that we can do quickly because we can collaborate and maybe get a grant because now we have the concept, so we can start doing this now. But again, we go through these processes and we get to the end and fabrication has started and now someone's installing this and someone says, well, I don't like it.
Yeah,
And there
then-
it's gone. So if the thing is, you know,
Yeah, I think we just
an
need to
agreement.
be better wording with our contracts, like, if we're not the party that decides to back out of the contract, then we shouldn't hold the financial burden for materials bought or labor committed to or other contracts signed or.
So we would have to have a contract with the village stating that if, I'm not a lawyer, but if you give us approval to do this project, based on.
And we commit to it,
and
we
commit
budget
to
it, yeah.
Then if it's their choice to not move forward, that they're accepting whatever
Yeah,
financial costs.
so at
are
least
sort of-
that, because that way they at least think about it, because they looked at all the information that we presented them, and they all said okay, and then they said, oh, I didn't know that's what I voted for.
Right.
So what's the action items we have now, Christina, on this, is there something we should do tonight? Are
So-
we just reviewing things now?
So if you can
next month?
finalize your mission and vision, choosing those, right? And then going through that strategic action plan and filling in those gaps. That's really your next homework. You let me know on, just any modifications you might need to this presentation, and I'll make those tweaks. But otherwise, this, this working document is for you to really get started and go.
And I think this turned out awesome.
Yeah,
like,
good
it's
job.
nice to see the literal hours of work come together in a format that's very, like less clutter, more clear, more concise. So
Thank you.
definitely appreciate that.
If I was paying you as a business to produce this, I would be very happy. You did a great job.
Oh, thank
I think for Kay, it's gonna give her a nice template to work off of for a long time. And I think if done right, we can actually do some, some meaningful things to the village. I just wanna see them get done. It's just like-
and focusing on those, those strategies, right, and the objectives with that, and making everyone really understand, this is what we're trying to achieve, right? And sometimes those tasks might change a little bit to achieve it as, over time, and that's okay. But still, unless you've really, fully gone through that objective to meet that goal, that strategy, then you haven't reached it. You haven't hit that measure of success yet. So continue to look at that. This is like your guiding post, right? There's always shiny objects out there, and believe me, I know, but we gotta stay focused in order to be able to actually get to this.
One question I have, and I think it was on your presentation about making sure that the businesses are there and blah, blah, blah. How would you move a business out of their location? I mean, we really have no teeth, nor does anybody else to do that. How would you, like we might have.
A lot of conversations, a lot of influence, a lot of.
Incentives.
Incentives, it's, depending on, your zoning ordinance overall and how things are grandfathered in, and to some extent, but then there's things that maybe have gone.
Even just addressing current ordinances.
Right.
There are businesses that are allowed, but do we want that anymore?
Right.
Could we get rid of them in the moment? Unfortunately, no.
No.
But you could stop them from further.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
and the ones that are there,
Yeah.
it's truly having an honest conversation and saying, look, it would be better to have you on a second floor or on a secondary street in order to free up this space for a retail space.
Yeah.
And have that conversation with the property owner if they're not, the owner of that property too.
What you're gonna probably see as values go up, those businesses will move along because there won't be a value to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what will happen over time. That's why we're kind of in the position we are, is because values were low.
Yep.
So anybody can move in, right?
Yeah,
Roofing
no,
guy needs a
absolutely.
thing, he moves in here, whatever. Not picking on anybody in particular, but as businesses, the value of the buildings go up.
Yep.
Because we're making everything better, those businesses
Absolutely.
will get pushed to the outskirts, which is where they should be.
And the conversation with those property owners, sometimes like some of them who are not like doing the investment, really the upkeep that's needed for some of those buildings, to show them the numbers that they could be getting, right?
Well,
If you did this investment, this is what you're gonna get in return. And that then does raise the bar in terms of what that rent structure is and gets you a higher quality tenant coming in.
Well, and I think using our CRM, so if there is someone that we would like to relocate, being able to give them other options.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
at $300 less rent, and we're gonna help you with the sign grant if you're willing to move to a different location. Sometimes we have to help it along. I think the biggest thing is, I think that it's gonna be a lot harder to move, but we can definitely encourage the planning commission and zoning commission to not continue to allow it. So it may take some time to phase it out, but we can start saying, we're gonna follow the ordinances starting today.
Yeah, and it's education for planning commission too. This is what's needed to have a really good, strong downtown.
Yeah.
And it continuously having that conversation.
One of the things I think we talked about this a while back, is maybe meeting with the zoning department and talking through some of their regulations they have, because they're pretty outdated. People drive smaller cars, they commute more, times are just different, and I don't know if we've caught up with that yet, which limits development. So, maybe it's an idea to look through that. But yeah, so this
Thank
is
you,
great.
Christina.
Great job.
Yeah.
Good job.
No,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
And-
coming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then any questions after this, just let me know, and then any modifications, and I'll get those made for you guys. And, you know, I can think about who might be a good facilitator for that. I would definitely get someone besides me.
I was gonna say you. You're really good.
I could be in the, like, the side, maybe helping, but like, I would probably like to get somebody who is really objective, completely, maybe new
Fly
to this
someone in
area.
from overseas, maybe.
Maybe. Maybe. There's some other people that I can think of that might be really good at it, but having that work session with the village and doing that often, I think would be really good, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask you a
Give you
question
back
that doesn't
this.
have a home?
Sure.
This return to Romeo,
Oops.
does it, where does it exist? On our, is it on our website? Is it the
Crimson
office?
I don't know if is it fully implemented yet?
No.
Okay, okay.
So that is our attraction strategy, and we will be building a complete social and marketing campaign around it. But that's gonna take some planning, because when we do it, we wanna really do it. But it will be, what Crimson gave us is on our website right now.
It is on our website.
It is.
You can find it on the village website also. I
It's on the village
scanned in the
website.
full packet into the
So,
documents.
We added a special projects tab to the DDA website, so that people can follow every project from the beginning through.
so if I may, and again, I'm sorry, this does not have a home on the agenda. Reason for the question is back to what my one point earlier, community engagement. This is so great to see you guys here. I know some of you have a different agenda to be here than what we're talking about, but this is an example of what we've been working on, and it is out there. So when the day comes in 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, there's a sign on the street, and you don't like it, now's the time to be looking at this, researching this, agreeing, disagreeing, not after we've spent 3 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you get my point. So, very beginning, as Kay just said, this is not finished, not publicized, but you guys are part of this. Go, look at these signs.
Give
They're
your
beautiful.
feedback.
Yeah.
Don't like them,
The
that's
surveys are
great.
on the-
If you don't like them, now's the time.
Okay, the other remote inside that envelope? We'll
Oh,
turn the blue off.
Okay, I have another question though. Well, actually, a couple questions. But going back to Park Mobile, sorry guys, but to assure that the residents are comfortable with what's happening, I feel like an official motion needs to be made to terminate that contract, and then that information be sent over to the attorney.
Well, we can't make that motion today because it wasn't on the agenda, open to public forum. But we can put it on next month's meeting.
Would that not fall under Park Mobile though? To make that motion?
Did your lawyer give you that advice?
No.
To what? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
The
I
sug-
wouldn't wanna
for
make
the
a motion
suggestion.
until we know what legal says.
Yeah, I mean,
Because why lie if something else comes up?
Like, I don't, what are you
Like,
talking
if
about?
we say, okay, we wanna get rid of Park Mobile, but it takes us like a year to get rid of Park Mobile because we have a contract with them, then you were not accurate in what you presented.
But we could terminate our contract with them.
We have to find out if we can terminate our contract with them. We
That's
have to
what the
go
lawyers
through
are looking
legal to do that.
Well, we can, it's just a matter of how, and
Yeah.
you need to wait for the advice.
Right, so we have two contracts. We have a contract with Park Mobile. From my non-attorney review of it, I think it's a pretty simple process, but we do need to have an attorney verify it just because we are responsible for what we are signing and breaking.
Yep.
There is a second contract that is with the village. The village has broken the tenets of that contract. We have yet to break our tenets with the village. So again, the attorney needs to tell us, how do we go forward? Because the last thing I want to do as a chairperson or as a board member here is start making and breaking contracts without an attorney, because if things go sideways, and there is a lawsuit that comes from this, one way or the other, Park Mobile, the village, a resident, a business owner, whatever, we need to have that our attorneys are supporting the decisions that we're making, not that we just decided to do it. So it's for the DDA's protection. I would think that the fact that the signs are down and the village has made a motion to not enforce it, should let the public know where we're at with it, but I would think that the public would respect the fact that we want to do our legal due diligence and make sure that we are covered and not putting the DDA at a disadvantage legally.
That would be my recommendation, is wait till you hear from your lawyer.
And Kay is in process with that. Any other discussion before we go into executive director report?
You had 2 points. by
Is
the way.
that good, Marty?
Yeah, you had a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that a good answer?
Oh, no, and then we were talking about the committees, for these different events, subcommittees. And I said it before, why can't we bring on, 1 or 2 residents into these committees? That's our best vocal, that's,
Yeah, you could.
yeah,
Always will.
okay. that was all.
Absolutely. I think it would be really great if it's possible, not to put you on the spot, Kathy, but a resident in the DDA district would be awesome to have. I know you'd be doing double duty because you're a DDA member and a merchant, but I think if there was just a resident in the district that would like to be a part of some of these conversations would really give us a little bang for our buck as far as someone who truly is living right there and is truly affected by it.
Pretty
in my
much,
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm talking about residents out here as well.
I agree. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I think if we could also get someone who's right,
Sure.
Absolutely.
I think the more the merrier, especially with that, the input that can happen with it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I
I
would
think
love to see,
the more diverse group, the
Yes.
better.
I would like
Well,
to
I
see
just
the
think,
diversity in
yeah,
it. Yes.
communication would get out to the community a lot better.
We have a whole section where we're trying to foster volunteers and to help with stuff that we're working on for the DDA, so, yeah, the more the merrier.
Yep,
How
I
would they
know.
get us that information, Kate? Do they email us if they want to volunteer, or?
I think once we get a plan put together, we can message it out in a lot of different ways to get them access to sign up for things, and to reach out and engage.
Okay.
And I think one of the important parts of the presentation too is as we're building those volunteers, we're matching them up really well with the different committees. So that's something that maybe we have a synopsis. What are you good at? What's your history? What do you want to be involved with? So that way when opportunities come up or committees come up, we're getting the right people on the right committees.
Well, and people seem, like, if you're gonna volunteer, you're really good at something, you're gonna be more enthusiastic about helping, and because that fits your skill set.
Yeah.
Rather than just showing up and being like, okay, you're gonna be over here where you don't like what you're doing or understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
And having our CRM is going to be so helpful. We won't be starting from scratch every time somebody leaves.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And I have, sorry.
You're
I have
fine, don't
a message
apologize.
from the tree board. Let's see, tree board they want to pay for the trees in the tree wells, but they will need to work with the new sidewalk committee. Is that right, Sharon?
Whatever's going on with the new streetscapes.
Yes.
We obviously don't want to put trees in wells that will get ripped out, but
Right, okay.
we do want to pay for them, and we've done some investigating on good ones. If suitable.
Okay.
All right. Executive director report?
Okay, so continuing to build out a communications plan for the businesses and the residents. We sent out a monthly newsletter. I personally visited 20 businesses this month and had those conversations. We sent out the streetscape planning survey to the business owners as well as the public. And we are hosting our second Velocity event. So we sent out an email invite, flyers. I hand-delivered flyers. There's some back there if anyone's interested. And that's tomorrow evening from 5 to 7 at the library. Some events this month included more SimCog Main Street revitalization and placemaking series, government relations meeting, of course the board and trustee meetings, and then the Velocity Roadshows. We also submitted 2 grants. One was a T-Mobile grant for the art project, and an individual business did submit a Velocity grant. And she is working on getting us those numbers each month so we can see the efforts. You know, if we host these road shows, what is the result? How many grants are being written, funds raised? We've gone through pretty much all of the projects.
I'm sorry, Kay, which library is the meeting at tomorrow?
It is the Romeo District Library on Van Dyke.
Okay, just between the two, I want to make sure we send people to the right one.
Yeah. Administration, just continuing to work on the RFP for our marketing and social media. We just felt like it was time to see what else was out there. Are we using our funds in the best way? And really targeting some goals. You know, we want to increase our likes, shares, our network, our followers, and all of that good stuff. So working on the RFPs for that. The CRM, we're in the process of getting stood up with that. So that's going to take a heavy lift this month, importing data and just tailoring it to how we want to use it. A big portion of that is the building owner and building information. So I'm so excited about this. It's very hard to get information, you know. I was talking to a tenant who was unhappy with their building, and I'm like, well, give me who's the building owner? I'll call, you know, I'll see how I can help them. Oh, no. Well, I can't help you if I don't have that information. So worked on the budget. We had a couple of workshops with Plant Moran, and we should be done with that. And then just continuous website updates. Our next focus is how do we make it speed up so that we can improve our Google search ability. And then just project management.
Good. All right, so we'll move on to board member comments.
I'll go first. So, in reference to what Megan had said, I had already planned on saying this as well as far as working with the Board of Trustees. Because I know a comment was made at the Board of Trustees meeting last week that we, the DDA board, does not want to work with them. That wasn't a DDA board comment, but a member or two comment. And I feel we need to find a way to work together with them. What's done is done already as far as the paid parking, and it was a huge lesson we all learned. It doesn't mean we give up on each other in our community. We reach out further and find a way to work together. So I just want to reach out to the Board of Trustees and let's just talk this through, work it out, figure it out, and make it work, you know? And I love the little conversations we had with the residents, you know, their input. When you were talking about the Main Street and somebody, I mean, that's what it's all about, just listening to what they have to say. It's not like you have 3 minutes, that's the only time you can speak. I don't know who it was, I think it was you, a couple of you. And it was just really nice to have that short, respectful conversation. So thank you. And then echoing what Dr. McLeod said about Kay, yes, thank you. You are amazing. Okay, I'm done.
Are you sure?
I'm done.
I, like Megan and Marty, one of the things that I did want to bring up is the fact that I would like for us to be cohesive and work with the trustees. I don't think that this Park Mobile was a failure in any way. I feel like we are all learning from it, and I know that I have. And I hope that we can all come together with this. I think that I'd like to see us have the same vision with the DDA, with the trustees, and working together. I'm very hopeful that we can come together with a moderator and do that. That's going to be extremely important. But also in the fact that I know Marty's a big advocate of bringing everyone in, and I'm very glad that you do that, because we want to hear from everybody. We don't know everything. You know, we're just like you. We're just volunteers here that put up here to hopefully make and keep this the place that it is better. Also, the low-hanging fruit. I'm excited about taking on the Visionary Leaders Circle with Kay. I feel like this is gonna be something that we can see immediate with in that. And with Paul, I truly believe we do need events. And people, it is the thing that we see right away. It's instant gratification when you see a successful event in the downtown area. So these are going to be events, you know, again, that I already talked about that, but they're buy-in with the businesses. So they're gonna be simple and not the money factor, but more of the buy-in factor. And hopefully they're gonna be well accepted and successful. Also with the same group, marketing downtown social media, looking really forward to that and keeping that going. It's been going great, and I think it's only going to get better. And then also the fact that with what you've done, Kay, and I'm so happy to work with you in all of this, but the opportunities for the education, the grants that we've had. Just recently, I've seen so many positive things happen in the last year since I've been appointed. Thank you, Megan, for appointing me with that. And I feel like, let's just take all that this has happened, and I know we've had heated discussions and things like that, but it's because there's so much pride and so much love for this community, and we're seeing that. And maybe we can just direct it in a little bit of a direction, but let's learn from that and come together with it.
Right. I agree. I am proud of this board. I am proud of you for taking a risk. We don't get anywhere if we don't try something. We haven't tried anything regarding parking in a long time. It's been a constant complaint, and we tried something. And I thank you for it. I am sorry the way that it went down, but here we are, and I know that we're going to walk forward in a respectful way. And thank you all for doing that with us. We're doing a lot right now. We have a lot on our plate, and we do have a vision, and we do have a path. And I'm excited to see where we're going to go.
I don't have anything.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'd like to add something to maybe our next meeting and get out in front of some of the developments that are going to be coming down the road, primarily the Myers project. Will have some benefits and have some very big impacts to our village in many ways. I think we should start talking about incentives for the smaller businesses, like the Ace Hardwares of the world, or the grocery stores of the world, or to make sure that our village doesn't get gobbled up by movement north, because it's coming. You can see the water mains going in, and we all know what that means. So as things change, I think we need to be proactive in thinking through how we make sure that our vulnerable businesses get taken care of. So I would like to add that to the next talking point to make sure we talk about that.
Perfect.
Because it's going to come, and then we're going to be like, oh my God, everybody's out of business. Or, oh my God, this is great. There's so many people here, we don't know what to do. It could be either way. So just want to be prepared. Other than that, whatever happened with the parking thing, I personally want to move forward. I don't like hashing the past. I just want to make sure that we can continue on a good path to actually get some things done. I got on this board to get stuff done. It's just how I'm built. I want to get stuff done. So I think this is great. I think we should have a clear vision, maybe work with the village, the zoning, whatever, but I think we got a good path, so.
I just want to thank the public for showing up and providing feedback and commentary, and that's about it. Hopefully we see more of you.
All right, I have a couple comments. So again, I was just going to say the same thing. I appreciate everyone coming, and I hope you continue to come, not just when there's a hotly contested item, but please continue to be a part of what's going on in the downtown area, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's important. I want to thank Kathy and Kay for the Visionary Leaders Circle. It sounds like something I think we've been talking about for a long time, is getting that merchant group together. So you guys have launched it and taken it, I think, further than we thought it was going to go in such a short amount of time. So really great job there. Also do want to remind the board that next month is our election of officers. So if you are currently an officer and you'd like to retain your position, please think about that. If you are interested in taking on any one of the 4 positions, please think about that too, because they will all be up for re-election next month.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.